Hi, Budget Builds here with,
Sin?
and we're working on a piece today. Whether it's fortification or a defensive outpost, it's crucial to any terrain set. And what we're talking about is the bunker. That's right. I am starting to cut out the roof and then the front wall for the bunker here. I haven't. This is the second bunker I did, so there'll be some variations on how I did the first one. But this one, I'm gonna end up cutting out two roofs and two front walls to make it more of a reinforced concrete look. Um, I like the feel of that. You'll see me put some accents to it as I glue it together. I really like having this as a piece to lay out on the table. It's a good place for you to set your figures behind. It's a good point of cover, and it provides a point of detail than just open barricades and open floor plan.
It doesn't matter if the cardboard's creased or not, because it actually does well for the paint, for texture.
Yeah, it gives you some natural lines to follow for some stress cracks, right?
Yeah, as long as it's not too hard to glue together.
Yeah, you still want the most of the structure to stand up straight. You're seeing us cut out the second wall and roof here. It doesn't matter. It's still the same kind of cardboard. It's box cardboard. I think this is from a Rice Krispie cereal box. The other one was,
Cheerios.
yeah, it was Cheerios. And so it's just whatever you have lying around. And I wanted something a little bit thicker, and I wanted to save the corrugated stuff for our bases. And it's always good to be frugal. Think about making the most with all of your pieces. If you have more of something than another item, figure out how to make that first item work to your advantage, that abundance work to your advantage. And so you see me working on the sidewalls now. I'm giving it a staggered look. I made sure I did the bottom is 4 inches. So this whole structure, I did the wall and the roof is at 6 inches. So you'll have a 6 inch width with a 4 inch length, and the you see those side walls there. The bottom is 4. I went up for the top segment is 2 inches. I wanted to make sure that I had somewhere good to glue the roof onto once I assembled the whole piece together. You want a nice good space so that that glue will hold and not come loose later on. When you're cutting these steps out, I like to go through once, or anything on cardboard really. I cut through once and then I come back again and just follow my line without much pressure, and it helps free whatever
Might
different
still be attached.
yeah, the different layers that might not have gotten cut as you went through with your first time. Make sure that you cut through all the way to the corners. That way you don't tear away and ruin whatever look you're going for. If it does tear, it's not the worst thing. It's just a little bit of extra texture for your paint. So we have both our walls here, and I'm just lining them up, making sure that they're at least mostly the same size. There's a little bit of difference. I'll probably come back and trim that up later. I left a little bit of flap there to make it look a little more fortified, as if they had built the curve into the top of the roof to prevent blast from coming in. So I'm breaking this skewer into small pieces. This is gonna be my exposed rebar on the. I think I do this for the front wall.
I
Yeah.
have Cheerios
Yeah.
part. I think that was like the side.
Okay. So this is yeah. So this is the front wall. I'm just laying out the skewers in place as I get ready to glue the top part of it, and then I'm just gonna sandwich these two pieces together and just hold it really tight, because there might be some wave or bend in the cardboard. You want to make sure it's glued all the way through, and then I just come back through and I just fill up the spaces. That way, when I hit it with the base coat later with the primer, that it has something for the primer to catch on. You'll see me smooth out the edges a little bit to make sure it's all sandwiched down nice and tight. I do both ends, and then there's these two spaces on the sides, these two cavities. And so I filled in not at the edge all the way, but a little bit down so that you would have some depth as if it was broken away, where the rebar is exposed, it was cracked or chipped away, and there was somewhere for the paint to catch
There's
on.
a Ziploc box.
Yeah, so that was it wasn't
Rice Krispie.
yeah, so the brown box was Ziploc box and the white box was Honey Nut box. I think the Ziploc box was a tiny bit thicker, not by much, but just a little bit. And then I just go and straighten it out, make sure it's all lined up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get what you can get done, and when you come to paint over, you can just texture it. And this is going to be the same method as with the front wall, but it won't be as hard because you're not trying to press down in the cavity that's made by the skewers. You can just, just take your thumbs, make sure there's no bubbles or anything, and then just move on. Now we're going to take this little handle piece that I had left over from the box that I've been doing the bases out of. I thought that's a perfect little portcullis, to stick your gun out. And so I just cut it out so that it looked like it was something that was made into the block, and just trimmed it up and neatened it up. I'm gonna use that as my guide later to cut the hole out on the inside, so it'll be a little bit easier for me instead of trying to freehand it. So any handles are good windows if you have any lying around from your boxes. If any of your cardboard tears when you're cutting it, don't worry. You can always just kind of glue it back down later. It just gives it that kind of used look, which it just depends on how well you paint, how those features come out. And be very careful when you're using your fingers to smooth out any thin pieces you've hot glued. You can easily burn it. And so I was looking through some of the already cut out corrugated cardboard I had that I like to use for bases, and I needed something that was 6 inches long and 4 inches wide, and I didn't have anything that perfectly fit that. And I had this piece, and some of the edges were a little off, and so I wanted to show maybe how you could take scraps of what you use for your base and make a base the size that you need. And it even provides some character to the floor for when you paint it later. So I just draw out my line all the way down at about 4 inches, and then I just peel off that remainder. And then I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna mark out a 3-inch width on each side. No, 4-inch width on each side. So excuse me, it's going to be 8 by 4 base. And then I'm just going to mark out all the way down, make some sort of cutting line for my box cutter. And I just come down and I just clear it up. Afterwards, we're going to take and fuse those two pieces together to make the larger base. You see the skewer that I have up in the right corner? That's what we're going to use. It's with the corrugated, it's a little bit easier because there's already spaces in the corrugated. There's thickness to it. So the skewer would fit in not popsicle stick. Toothpick might work a little bit better because it's a little bit smaller. It was a little hard for me to work the skewer in there, but it was large enough that I felt that it would be secure as I fused the two floorboards together. And then I just go back through and trim up my straight edge. I had taken and marked with arrows the side I knew would be the straightest, so that when I put the pieces together, it would line up correctly and look like a seam in the floor, rather than me taking two pieces of cardboard and putting them together. And so I begin to break out the pieces that I need, and I get ready to see where I'm going to place them at. I take the time to realize I can't just shove them in there, and I'm going to be taking the point that's left from the skewer and opening the hole up. So there you go. I'm opening up the holes so that the skewers can fit in there easily, and I don't run the risk of tearing the cardboard. I just put a little dab of hot glue on there so it'll just dry in there real quick and have a real secure hold and won't want to slide back out. How they frayed made it a little hard. Maybe if you cut it, it might be a little bit easier, but I just broke it to be quick, and I felt like once it was in there, it was harder to come out since it was frayed at the ends. And so I begin to finish up putting out the pegs in the side, and then I'm going to take and line these two pieces up and mark with the arrows where they go in, so that I can go back and open up the holes on the other side. And that will make the whole process of sliding the two pieces together Make sure you get in there really deep if you're using this method. That way there's plenty of room for it to go in there and you're not having to try to pull it apart and come back later. Put firm force when you fuse the two pieces. Put a bit of grip towards the front so it doesn't bend, and just wiggle it on together. If it comes out at the back end, you see it ripped a little bit, I slide it back in, and I just come back through with the glue gun and I just covered it back up on the bottom. And then just seal your center line up. Give a little texture to the crack, a little irregularity to how the mortar was maybe put in when the bricks were fused. I just go back through and measure and see you have a 4x8 little wall, and then I just cut my my front portcullis out, making sure to follow the same line as what I glued on top of it, making sure to try to cut all the way through. Really be careful when you're working with your fingers this close to a blade. It's real easy to slip, even though there's this guard around it from what I glued on top, making the cut a lot safer for me to work on this smaller piece. You see how close my thumb could get, and it would slice really bad. So just be careful when working with it. We have our portcullis sliced out, and we're just going to start gluing our whole structure together now. Like with any other builds, the first piece is always the hardest to get on to stand up straight. It's a little thicker piece, a little offside though. It stands up fairly okay on its own, but leans back. I can straighten it up as I bring the walls in on the side. We're gonna do our walls second. Just put a bead of glue in any gaps that you may need to fill, any spaces that you may have. Don't stress too much. If your glue doesn't stick, pull it off, pull the old glue off, and just try again. The key is to try to work with a clean surface so that the glue holds to what you're actually trying to glue, rather than to maybe an old glue bead that you did that can easily just pull off later. You see I took the walls and I actually flipped the other one. I wanted to give a little asymmetrical look to it. It ends up going really well with how the how it's painted later is painted with this semi-orc style, so that ends up working out to its benefit. And then you have your little bunker. Now the next part, I just go to start adding detail to it. I trim the roof out. Just try to give it a broken away look since the roof doesn't cover the whole structure. We don't want any real straight edge there. And so I just kind of cut a curve in there and then just put some hard little corners in it. And now I'm going to take all my little bits and just come back through. You see I had taken actually had glued this wall backwards and upside down. No, not upside down, just backwards.
I
but
was. I thought that crease was supposed to be like a barrier.
That was the intention, right? But when I had glued the guide part on, I put it on the wrong side. And so when I used the flap for what should be my outside when I go to put it up, that nice little piece that I had, well, that's now on the inside. So I was like, well, at least I don't have to do detail on the inside now. And so I just started taking my bits, and I took, actually what you see around the portcullis there is what was from inside the handle. I just cut it in half and put it on top and bottom. Just taking any other little bits from the cardboard and just starting to put that ramshackle look together. It goes well with the barricades that I did in the last video. This is all going to be for one set anyways, so I thought it would be a good idea to try to mimic the same style. So that's why you saw me flip the wall. You
lost the video.
Yeah, of the first set of those that we did that you'll see the painting of. Yeah, so I wanted this to match the second set. This was the second bunker. And so I start putting a lot of rectangles and right triangles in place. I put a little barricade up top, so if anybody wants to take position on top of the structure, you know, there's sufficient cover to do so. And there you go. You have your little bunker. If you like this and you want to see more like it, just hit like, comment down below, and hit subscribe. Stay in tuned and check our description out for the cashtag down below. And just look for more content upcoming. We have the paint videos coming out soon. Thank you and have a nice day.